Hey folks, here we are for the final round, Game 5 with the Damia Surge deck. And as always, I've saved the best for last. This game was the one I perceived to be the most competitive and it was the most enjoyable for me. So here we have the commanders Heliod, Mizzix, and we have a Thracios and Tymna partner deck. I've made quite a few different Thracios and Tymna decks. It could be any number of things. It could be stacks, it could be hate bears, it could be combo or storm of some kind. And by combo, I mean, generally speaking, graveyard combos like Hermit Druid and the such. So, and the like, rather. So here we are not on the play. The Thracios and Tymna deck is on the play. And we have one of the worst hands I've ever seen with this deck. This is an auto mulligan. Don't take any time to think about this. Definitely pitch this back. I could explain why, but it should be obvious. There's one land I couldn't cast any of my spells. This hand's also pretty bad. There's no ramp, a bunch of giant spells that I can't cast, and I have a land here that doesn't even produce mana yet. So definitely going to ship this one back as well. Going down to 6. Here I decided to keep. It's actually a really good 6-card hand. The reason being is that I can, if I find another land, which I actually see one on top here, I scry it to the top to guarantee my 3rd land drop. I have Exploration to put 2 lands in play on turn 1. Then with Crucible in this fetch land, I can power out a ton of lands really fast, and I also have Gilded Lotus and Consecrated Sphinx. So this seems like a pretty great hand. It's not like the most explosive that this deck can perform, but it also is one of the like grindy, like consistent lines where it's guaranteed to accrue card advantage with this Crucible Worlds. Heliod plays a turn 1 top, plays an island and passes, and Thracios and Tymna had played a Finhorn Elf on the previous turn, on their first turn. So he starts off aggressive, goes ahead and plays a Tymna. Wants to go ahead and get those cards going. So I play a land, then play another land. With Crucible, normally speaking, especially since I have Crucible here, I wouldn't want to crack the fetch land immediately because there's a chance that this guy could like Bojuka Bog me, or someone else could play like a Relic of Progenitus or something, or Tormod's Crypt, and get my land there. But I decided I want to go ahead and get out as fast as possible. So play my land of War Elf. The Heliod player plays Blind Obedience, which is pretty good. This is actually a win condition in certain decks where you can create Infinite Storm and you can extort everyone infinitely to kill everyone. It's also just a reasonably disruptive enchantment. It makes it so that your fast mana artifacts come into play tapped, and creatures as well, so it stops Splinter Twin type combos. This player just plays a land, passes the turn, taps out. Tymna here plays a Grim Tutor. Thracios and Tymna player, and then plays Nature's Claim. I'm pretty sure he just got that right now. He doesn't want me to accrue tons of lands in play with the Crucible and fetch land, so, and he probably perceives me as the biggest threat right now, so he just decides to go ahead and Grim Tutor for that Nature's Claim. Pretty certain that's what he got. And then he attacks me as well with Tymna and draws a card. Which this is not the end of the world for me. I still have things that I can do. I still have action. So I play Utopia Sprawl, which I drew this turn. And then I play Gilded Lotus, which comes into play tapped, but it's fine. I didn't have anything to do with the mana anyways. And next turn, I can either play Damia or Consecrated Sphinx. Which I'm leaning towards Consecrated Sphinx. Just because it stops them from playing plays that draw cards. It stops him from drawing cards. As much, rather. Because, I mean, I'll get 2 cards. And if he decides to draw some cards by attacking more than one player, with Tymna here, then I will be able to draw a ton of cards. More than what Damia would allow me to draw. So these players just tap out and pass the turn again. This player plays an Elvish Mystic, which comes into play tap, and then he attacks 2 players, this time drawing 2 cards. He attacks me with Tymna again, and attacks Heliod over here with the Finhorn Elf. And here he played another tutor, another Vampiric Tutor. So I'm definitely thinking combo now. When I see all this stuff that's happening, he's got all these tutors. I mean, you could put these cards in a stack stack or something like that, but the fact that he's played two tutors in a row, he has Nature's Claim, things like that, it makes me think that he is probably a combo deck, and that Nature's Claim is probably to stop cards like Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void from shutting down his strategy. Again, when I say combo, I mean graveyard-based combo. So here I play Consecrated Sphinx, and I pass the turn. He plays Chain of Vapor on my Consecrated Sphinx. He did not want me to draw any cards. This guy definitely has me in line as the target of his choice in this game. He wants to take me out first, and that's very clear. I'm not super upset about that, though. In an effort to eat up some of his mana, because I think all the mana that I need to cast Primal Surge, or close to it, or by the time I find Primal Surge, I'll probably be able to cast it, because that means I've probably drawn other cards. But I decided to go ahead and sack this Boseiju here to copy Chain of Vapor and bounce his Temna, which expends some of his resources for the next turn. Hopefully with the Vampiric Tutor, he won't be able to do that and play his Temna, so I took a couple of cards from him, hopefully. And here I pass with Llanowar Elves up, so that I can block if he chooses to attack me. And I definitely would block one of his mana elves with my elf. Heliod player plays his commander, plays his or her commander. Mizzix player finally doesn't tap out for a turn and leaves mana open, which is great for me. I mean, if he interacts with my Consecrated Sphinx, that's kind of bad, but this guy just Vampiric Tutor, so I kind of need this player to have something, depending on what he plays here. So he plays Temna out. And then he plays Flash. And at this time, I really wish I had a counterspell of some kind, or something to interact with this. If you know anything about this, it's very likely, it's possible that this is bait. I mean, it could just be a bait spell, and it's a must counter, that's for sure. What he likely has in hand is Protean Hulk. And I don't want to go too much into the details with this, but I play this deck on paper. It's my competitive deck that I play in tournaments. When I am at a competitive meta, I play this deck, or a very similar deck to his. I think his might be built a little differently than mine, but I run a lot of the same cards that he runs. Nature's Claim, Vampiric Tutor, Chain of Vapor, Mana Dorks, Temna, and good lands and stuff. So what I'm thinking is Hulk's on the way, and then he's gonna Breakfast Hulk combo us out, or do one of the other iterations, which is like Mikaeus and Walking Ballista with a Sacrifice Outlet. There's a lot of different things you can do with Protean Hulk. I don't really want to go into too much detail with that, but he could win the game on the spot with this spell if there's not an answer. So it was very fortunate for everyone at the table that this guy had a Rewind. I kind of wish it was a different counterspell that just tapped him out so that I could do my thing, but because he has Rewind, he potentially can interact with me as well. So he casts his Rewind, continuing to represent counter magic, and he attacks both of these players, and there's nothing I can do about that. I would have blocked if he attacked me, but he knew better. So he draws another couple of cards here. So he's had basically a full grip the whole game, and he's cast a couple of tutors here. He's setting up shop. He may have already had the Nature's Claim in hand, and then he Grim Tutored for Protean Hulk or Flash, and then Vampiric Tutored for the other piece. That's something that very possibly could have happened as well, but based on the way everything played out, it just seems to me like he Grim Tutored for the Nature's Claim. But he could have done that on purpose. I'll give some credit to my opponent. He could have done that to make it look like that's what he was doing, so that he could, in reality, just combo off. So I play Consecrated Sphinx, and he taps his mana, and I'm thinking, oh no, he's about to counter my spell. That stinks. And he casts Factor Fiction instead, which is nice. Maybe he wants to find a Force of Will or a Pact of Negation. And here, he chose me as the opponent. And I thought about a way to compile these cards in such a way to maximize my value off of it. So with the Consecrated Sphinx here, these two cards get a lot weaker, that's for sure. But I still don't think I should put them together, just in case someone has an answer for my Consecrated Sphinx. And I ended up deciding I'll put the worst card, I think, which is Time Reversal here, with these two lands, and then I'll put these two good cards together, and he can choose which one he wants. And he ends up taking the good pile. So he bends the lands in the Time Reversal and keeps Blue Sun Zenith and Mind's Desire. So now I have my Consecrated Sphinx in play. If he doesn't have a Path or a Swords on his upkeep, then I'm going to draw some cards, which is nice. He looks with the top on his upkeep. Just have a little control over what he draws this turn. Maybe he was thinking he could tap the top and then Path this thing, but I would still get one trigger off of this if he did that. I drew a couple of lands, which isn't the best, but I'm fine. Just drawing cards, period, is nice. It's getting me closer to finding Primal Surge, getting me more lands so that I can cast it. And then he plays a Gilded Lotus, which does not come into play tapped because this is only your opponent's, which is nice for him. Draw a couple more cards off of Consecrated Sphinx. I pick up a little interaction with Seal of Primordium, which is nice, just in case. I mean, I could blow up one of these, or this thing is potentially very powerful. He just played it this turn. Makes your instance and sorceries cheaper, and if you have 4 or more counters on it, you can transform it, and it copies the spell once you do that. So this card's very powerful. It takes a little bit of setup to get it going, but it's pretty sweet if you can do it. Copying spells is pretty powerful effect. And once this happens, all you have to do is just tap a land and cast a spell. Like, it is now a mana that produces any color, or a land that produces any color of mana. And then, cast an instant or sorcery with it, and you can copy it. So it seems pretty sweet to me. His deck seems to be a Storm-style deck, sort of, because he has cards like Mind's Desire. So he did not have an answer. For the first time, he did not have an answer for what I was doing. I expected for sure on his upkeep he was going to play something that kills my Consecrated Sphinx, but he didn't, and I drew Swamp and Recycle, which is another decent pickup. He plays yet another Tutor, and with Timna here, he can draw whatever that card is. Whenever he fired off that Tutor, I was telling the other players, like, he's tapped out right now, but this is bad for us, because what I'm assuming that he is going to get with this Imperial Seal is either Eternal Witness or Regrowth to get back his Flash, and then he will proceed to Flash Hulk us out of the game. And that's sort of what happens here. He decides to attack everybody, including me. But he attacks me with Timna. And I decide it is worth it to chump with the Llanowar Elves just to prevent him from drawing another card. He wisely did not attack me with his Mana Elves, because I would have definitely traded. And I could have blocked with Consecrated Sphinx, but this thing stopped me from doing that. So he draws 2 cards. I draw 4 cards. I definitely accept that exchange, and I find a Telepathy and a bunch of lands. I just have so many lands, like not much action going on here. I need an Azusa or something pronto. So he plays a Chrome Mox, which comes into play tap. And then I'm not sure if he imprinted anything or not. I can't really see. He may not have imprinted anything, but he regrows for Flash, which is exactly what I thought he was going to do. And if this guy doesn't have a Force of Will or a Pact, it's game over. At least I think. So he puts Protean Hulk into play. He cannot pay for it. And what should be done here, depending on the contents of his deck and what's in his hand, is the line that I like to get is Dryad Arbor plus Sylvan Safekeeper plus Grand Abolisher plus Nobod's Encore plus Cephalid Illusionist. And if you know how this interaction works, that will allow you to mill yourself completely, and then you can win with any number of different graveyard-based combos, either Necrotic Ooze or Laboratory Maniac. And that's what I think is about to happen here. And honestly, it just should have happened here. And we'll see eventually how he messed up here. I'm pretty sure he did just mess up. So the 2 cards that he got for CMC 6 or less were Viscera Seer and Karma Guide. Karma Guide returns Protean Hulk, then he sacrifices Protean Hulk. One thing that he could have done here, I think that he is running the Mikaeus version instead of the Cephalid Illusionist combo, which he could be running both, who knows. The one I played, there's quite a bit of redundancy. I will cover this deck eventually, I think, but it's very complicated and there's a lot of interaction, so I haven't been excited to go ahead and do the deck tech on that one yet. It's one of the most complicated decks I've ever played, and knowing the lines and knowing what you can do and what you can't do and how to win safely and all of these kind of things, it's very, very difficult. So what I'm thinking he's going to get is Mikaeus and Walking Ballista. That's game over. The way this works is Mikaeus gives your non-human creatures +1/+1 and Undying. The Walking Ballista will come into play as a 0/0, but it will be a 1/1 because Mikaeus makes it larger. Then you sacrifice it with Viscera Seer, and since it did not have a +1/+1 counter on it, it will come back with a +1/+1 counter on it. That you can then use that counter to shoot a player, and then sacrifice it again. And since it never has a 1/1 counter on it, when it dies, it will always come back with a 1/1 counter, so you can repeat this process to shoot every player at the table for an arbitrarily large amount of damage. So here, he gets Body Double and Caustic Caterpillar. And I'm thinking maybe he has the wrong cards in his hand or something like that. He should have been able to just win right here, but the fact that he is not winning is a good sign for me and for us at the table. This player decides to take this opportunity to tap or to look at the cards at the top, see if he can find something maybe to disrupt this in the top 3. And I don't believe he does, but he ends up just passing the turn. I don't know what could possibly be in his hand or in his library that he was unable to win right there. I mean, if you cast Flash Hulk and your deck is built right, you should just win on the spot. Not quite sure what happened there, but just to see what happens, I play Recycle first, because I don't like all the cards in my hand. I also kind of want to discard some of these lands so that I can draw cards with Damia. Since I don't have, I do have the Exploration, but I don't have an Azusa or something that allows me to put a bunch of lands into play. I figure I'm going to play this Recycle, play a few cards, try to see if I can find a Primal Surge set up for next turn. Play my lands out, the ones that I can. So I draw a card here. Then I play Telepathy. And now, like, the jig is up. I get to see what was going on over there, which is something I was definitely, like, concerned about. So he had Nomad's Encore and Cephalid Illusionist in hand. And I guess he didn't realize this, or he didn't understand, like, maybe he didn't want to do it unsafely. The way my deck is set up, if I have these two cards in play, then I just win. I don't need to draw a card with Temna, but he could have drawn a card with Temna. What he does is he mills himself out, reanimates Laboratory Maniac with Dread Return, then attacks anyone that he can attack with Temna or one of his creatures, and then he draws a card to win the game. Which is what I think he was thinking about doing, but he didn't want to go all in like that. But the fact that he doesn't have Mikaeus or Walking Ballista in his hand, and he said something about that in the chat, I think, where he runs that combo, so he should have just gotten it with the Protean Hulk. So I don't know what's going on over there. He could have won with this. He could have won with the other Protean Hulk combo, which is like a level of redundancy, like, so that you can go off multiple ways if one of them is disrupted. But he ends up not winning, which is just like was super strange. So that's this guy's hand. Here we see no free counter spells. Actually, not even very many instants. Like, there's just the Blue Sun Zenith. And then this guy has, this person has Meekstone and Sphere of Safety. So, other than this person who may potentially win again next turn, we don't have no one else has anything that I care about. None of these cards are going to stop me from doing my thing, which is a good sign. Here I play Simic Signet, drawing another card. Then I play Birds of Paradise as my final card, and I discard a bunch of stuff. I think I only keep maybe Teferi and Sidisi, or maybe I give up on Teferi and I keep a land. I'm not sure. That's exactly what happened. You skip your draw step with Recycle, so having a land to play isn't the worst to like get started or whatever. And it also means that if something happens where maybe somebody blows up all my lands or whatever and I can't cast Sidisi, then I can play this to draw another card. But with Consecrated Sphinx here, I get to draw up again, draw an additional 2 cards. And then he top decks a bomb. This was like the perfect card for me, for everything, for everyone at the table. This was very good. This does create complications in the future for me, but at the same time, this stops his shenanigans. This completely stops his combo. I believe he needs Viscera Seer in play in order to win with the Mikaeus shenanigans. He also needs these creatures to survive in order to do it the other way, and none of them will live past Elish Norn. So he draws and plays Elish Norn, which is perfect. Kills my birds, but I don't care about that. It stops this guy from comboing off. Then he plays Meekstone and extorts it. I believe he extorted both spells. Now I have a 2/4 Consecrated Sphinx, which is fine, still gets the job done. I find Notion Thief and Eternal Witness. And now, with this next, play, or when he played Elish Norn, I'm now feeling very good about my position about winning the game. When earlier, it looked like I was certainly going to lose. I don't know why it keeps repositioning these, but I'm going to keep putting them back in the proper order. I think what happens is the window tries to move away from the active player, or something like that, but it's pretty obnoxious sometimes. I love Telepathy, but playing it online is not the most enjoyable experience, even though it does give away a lot of information. So he tries to Flash of Insight here, definitely looking for an answer for Elish Norn so that he can just go off. He finds Damnation, which he can fire off next turn. So he has his game plan. He can go Damnation, and then Cephalid Illusionist, Nomad's Encore, and then win the other way. I don't know why he didn't already win, but whatever. So now I draw Heartbeat of Spring, which was a very, very great pickup. I did the math here with the number of lands I have in play. I can use Gilded Lotus to put Heartbeat of Spring in play, and I have enough lands to cast Sidisi and cast Primal Surge. I drew Jitrog Monster, which is a little weird because that's the way I win the game, but I also have Recycle, so I can win the game that way. But there is a complication here. And this time, instead of zooming through the whole Primal Surge thing, I actually have to show it. And it's probably faster for me to explain what happens than it is for me to show what happens, but I'll try to do both. Let's see if this works. So this player, due to heartbeat, leaves open a little bit of blue and decides to blue Sun Zenith to try to draw something to stop this. Because I think he knows that this is my win condition by now, considering how everything played out. I mean, I played heartbeat, I played a tutor, and then I played this. So he probably knows that this is my win condition. And here, instead of drawing like I normally always would with Consecrated Sphinx, I choose not to. Because if I draw Laboratory Maniac or I draw certain other cards, it will make it harder for me to win. And all my cards are about to go into play, so I don't need to draw more cards off Consecrated Sphinx. So he does not find a counterspell. He finds a turnabout. He just untaps his lands. He's kind of like just dirtling here. After I saw the cards he drew with Blue Sun Zenith, I realized that he wasn't going to be able to interact with me. And here, like I said, this is a very, very slow process going through Primal Surge without skipping past it. Like I said, if I hit play here, it's going to take like 20 minutes. If I do this, it takes a lot of clicks, but it will happen faster than the other way, I think. So there's a lot of creatures coming into play, -1, -1, and so on and so forth. They're going to die as a state-based effect as soon as the spell resolves because of Elesh Norn. So the main complication here is the fact that Elesh Norn is in play. It will kill my Laboratory Maniac. So I have to hope that Labman is not in the last couple of cards, or I guess I could still figure out something even if that happens. But there are problems that could arise. I luckily have an Eternal Witness in my hand, which makes things a little easier here. The plan is to leave enough cards in my library so I don't kill myself with Recycle, and I almost messed this up here. I definitely almost did it wrong. I should have left an additional card just as a little bit of insurance. But the plan is to play Eternal Witness, or once Venser comes into play, Venser will bounce Elesh Norn. Then I play Eternal Witness to get back Laboratory Maniac, then I play Laboratory Maniac and draw a card. And that's the plan here, but I have to execute right, because if I don't, then I will kill myself with like trying to cast a Lab Man, because I'm unable to get him in play and draw another card after that, because I'll have already drawn all the cards in my library, so I don't want that to happen. I believe the number that I leave in my library is 3. And like I said, I almost messed up. I probably should have left 4. One of the complications as well is that Runescarred Demon is not a May. You are required to search your library for a card, and you are required to put it in your hand. So that's one of the cards right there. The other card is casting Eternal Witness. So now I have 1 card left in library. Then the next card is Laboratory Maniac, which reduces me to 0 cards in library. Then the next spell that I will play will allow me to draw a card and win with Laboratory Maniac. Like I said, this just takes forever. I've already explained what I'm going to be doing here, and it's getting there. Got 26 cards left. Screw it. I think I adequately explained what was going on here. I also have Venser in hand, which makes things a little worse. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I was barely able to do this, I think. So I'm skipping to the end here. They're nice. Okay, so it sort of worked. I don't think I can pause it here, but what happened is what I explained. And I ended up playing Gitrog Monster as the final spell and winning here. So I had just enough cards, leaving the amount that I had in my library, to cast Venser, which dies but kills Elesh Norn. Then I play Laboratory Maniac. How did I get that back? I don't really remember, but I had everything lined up in such a way where I was able to have exactly enough cards in library. When I cast Laboratory Maniac after Recycle resolves, I had 0 cards in library. And Zephyri ended up in my graveyard, so I could not do this safely, but I had the information of telepathy to know that I am safe in doing what I'm doing. So I hope you enjoyed these games. This is definitely a fun deck for your like casual metas or whatever. If you enjoyed it, feel free to tell me if you liked it. Tell me if you didn't like it and why. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time.